Very, very clean positional game there.
Pawn to d4, the opening move of this game. With the white pieces, it's Daniel Naroditsky, a man in the spotlight right now because the current world champion is after him, and playing with black, we've got MenuGarden. Yes, that's the real account name of Magnus Carlsen, reigning world champion at the time of this game. It was on chess.com, 27th of May 2020, and what follows here is just a simple, beautiful, elegant masterpiece. You'll learn so much from this game. So Magnus goes d5, meets Danya in the middle, knight c3 played, and it indicates that a Jabava London is on the way here. Does Magnus play e6 in response? No. He's seen Hans Niemann's Jabava London course. Have a listen.
Again, in the course, I have a saying about this position. So, our opponents play e6, and we don't really know if they are comfortable going into the French, because some of our opponents might allow us the chance to go for the French, knowing that we won't go to the French, because we think that they're comfortable with the French, meaning that they're going to be more comfortable in the French than we are in the French. However, they can also know that we are comfortable in the French and that we think that they are comfortable in the French, thus making us not go into the French transposition, thus letting them play e6 without actually having proper knowledge of the French. And that's why this course is the greatest of all time.
So instead he plays knight f6, doesn't fall for the French trap. Now we get bishop f4, and it looks like knight b5's on the way. Surely you play a6. No, Magnus pushes the c pawn here. Hang on, can't you go knight b5? Well, no, there's check, and you win that piece, or it has to backpedal. So instead we see pawn to e3. Surely now you can play knight b5. a6 necessary, but Magnus instead takes in the middle of the board, and if knight b5 not played, then there's queen a5 check. And if you run with king to e2, you take the knight. If you push pawn c3, you can actually take, allow the check, sidestep the king, and you've got a ton of threats of your own as the black player, to take on b2, win a rook, that kind of thing. If the queen blocks, you swap them, and knight e4 check can be on the way with g5. Whoops, g5 coming. So all these traps and tricks, they work out for black. That's why Danya just recaptures here. Now we see pawn to a6 covering the square, and knight f3. Calm development from both players, and Danya now makes what we would normally call a boo-boo. He goes knight to e5, moving the same piece twice in the opening. I thought he understood the Russian school of chess, but it is a strong outpost, so it's not the worst of moves here. Now we see e6 in response. Magnus killing his own bishop on c8 here. Surely not a good move, but watch how he intricately extricates that bishop now. Masterful play. Danya builds the banana hammock. Now we get bishop d6. This one Brie and Cheddar's onto the long diagonal. Both players castle, doing a quick nod of approval there. And queen c7, rook e1, natural moves, and b5 begins the process of expansion. Now you can go a3. Keep an eye on this square. Just a different game. Oftentimes then this knight can look to use this square or rotate via e7 to f5, but instead Danya goes for this one, takes. Why? Well, he wants knight e2, anticipating b4. But if he'd done it straight away, you block the rook's connection with the knight, then Magnus could have taken and shattered the structure. Well, in the right order, of course, because you don't want to get forked on these pieces, but these were the themes of it. So that's why we saw the knight rotating to e2 after this one takes. Now Magnus expands with b4, and after bishop takes on d6, clearing a square for this knight, which it now utilizes, Magnus goes a5, and we start to see the master plan at work, opening up this dark squared bishop soon to hit this complex. Now Danya has a number of moves here, whoops, arrows all over the place, thinking I'm Hikaru, that he can play. He didn't select any of these fantastic moves. Instead, he goes for the really strange rook e5, whispering away, do you even rook lift, bro? And it just looks so strange, because surely the knight wants to be on that outpost. Where's the rook going from there? Magnus calmly carries on. His coach, Peter Heine Nielsen, really approves of this one, as we can see. And after queen d2, we now see rook a c8, and this is a tastier half-open file than Vishy Anand's favourite snack.
Mushrooms.
So that one under fire, plus this pawn clamping on the square. Danya goes for a3, trying to undermine those pawns, but rook c6. Magnus covering all bases here, the bishop under cover, and look at this. Rook c1, rook a c8. He's dominating this pawn here. Absolutely miserable position for Danya. And after pawn h3, pawn h6, both players with the little bunny ear moves, we now see this rook meekly returning, tail between the legs. What a positional crush that Magnus is starting to unleash on the board. Queen c7 played, 19 points of firepower barreling down that file, and he's offering an exchange of prisoners, which Danya goes for. Hard to find so many better moves. Now Magnus crashes through. We see this exchange and look at the pawn islands. This is what Magnus does. The lethal combination of Fischer and Karpov, as Kasparov once said. This is a masterpiece, so simple, so beautiful. You can now go queen d2, but it wasn't played. Instead, Magnus goes for this. Not the favourite move of Stock Squid, sure, but he wants to get the queens off the board. Danya knows it. He doesn't play it. He knows what Magnus is like in that grinding endgame, going like a grandma for days. So now Magnus insists. Still Danya's having none of it. Plays queen a3, and it sets a tricky trap. You know, what would you play here? You've got the black pieces. You're looking to improve your position. How are you going to go from here? Well, hands up if you would have played rook to c2. Looks so natural, but a big blunder, because you've got this slide back and you hit the queen. It moves and you lose a bishop because the queen's also on this one. That was the tricky trap. Let us know in the comments if you would have played rook c2. Probably ought to apologise for that one. We're not angry, we're just a bit disappointed that your tactics aren't at the level they need to be to beat Danya Naroditsky. But we rewind, we won't dwell. Now we go back to queen a3. Magnus sees it, he's too long in the tooth, plays queen b6 here, pressuring the two pawns, no tactical issues, and now after h4 you can indeed invade with rook c2, but Magnus goes for bishop to c4, taking care of the attack on it so that now he can legit take that pawn without hanging a bishop. So Danya covers. Now Magnus intensifies the pressure. Rook d2 protects the pawn. Epic commentary here on Epic Cheese as always. Do consider subscribing if you haven't yet done so. We'll see if we can get to 100k subs by 2028. Thank you for your support. Now we see queen b4, again offering the exchange of the ladies. Again, Danya's having none of it. Plays queen to e3 here, and I love these moves. They're so quiet, so deadly, so effective. How many of us would burn clock here trying to figure out a plan? Just queen a5 from Magnus. Make way for rook b3. He sings in a kind of Aladdin voice. Old Aladdin, not modern. Modern Disney sucks. Now we see queen c3, and it's desperation. Danya is bailing out. You can see over here the stock nest monster poops its pants. That's a bar explosion, because after captures, there's this check, and it's absolutely deadly. You know, you can't block with the bishop. You're just going to get absolutely mincemeated on f1. Don't give up a rook, probably not a good idea. So the king goes here, of course, but now there's g5 for the high five. Magnus just playing these moves like this, just rolling off the fingers, right? And now he sees that he's got this check and where to go with the king. You can't step back. This rook covering the rank. So you have to stumble forward like a drunk in the darkness on a cold Saturday night. Now you check back, still the king stumbling, and Magnus sinks his teeth into this centralized dominant square, an octopus that Stocktopus can be proud of. Let's draw some arrows just because we love seeing them on the board. and Danya is absolutely busted. He tries g4 to give some room, take away the f5 square. Magnus goes rook b3, simple threats once more, so bishop f3 played to cover the knight, but so what? Takes is played, this one captures, now the pawn drops, that's 2 to the good for Magnus, and he's got the better structure. King h2 played, and rook c2 seals the deal. Danya resigns. Why? Well, you have to take. If you move, you're going to lose a bishop. And after knight takes, this pawn simply dropping off the board. That's 3 pawns to the good. Game over. Positional, sublime chess, out of this world. Hope you enjoyed. Smash subscribe if you did, and check out the video on screen for another epic Magnus Carlsen game. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon. Cheers.